everybody. Welcome to This Week in Indies for April 4th, 2021. It is Easter or Happy Chocolate Bunny Day. And welcome to the show. And we've got a great one for you, including this right now. If you're a writer out there looking for some music to write to, Mr. JD Estrada's got you covered. And then we'll come back with the roundtable. I don't know if we're going to solve all of the social media problems, but we will give it a go. We'll be right back, everybody.
Greetings, fellow humans. I like offering different types of things when I do these reviews, and one thing I adore is offering music that I think is perfect to write to. So, if you're writing a high fantasy or a dark fantasy, I highly recommend Vartra and their album Luna Nua. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. They might correct me because I actually will have them on my blog for an interview. Very lovely people. They're actually from Serbia. It's a 6 or 7 piece band. It was founded in 2017 by Sinisa Gavrik and the Stosik sisters, Ivana and Alexandra, are the lead singers. So you have these 3 lead singers who are very dreamy and witch-like and whatnot, but you have this band that has electric guitar and bass and drums and stuff like that. So it's a combination of world instruments and modern instruments to get this sound. This sound is pretty cool. I don't know if you've ever listened to a band from Germany called Heilung. Heilung sounds like if they musicalized like a druid ceremony before a sacrifice. It's pretty intense. And I also recommend that for writing music. Vartra is, I think it's more accessible as a band. I think more people can connect with the music that they have. And actually, they describe their music and their performances as a cathartic experience. They want to touch into the darkness and take it out of you. And that's how they describe it. And I really get that sense from their music. Founded in 2017, they got their album in 2019. I'm pretty sure they're gonna push to get an album out in 2021, and it's a band that I see growing. And surprising, I listen to the album, and every time I listen to the album, I go like, these people can make such a good, movie score and soundtrack. They use Native American drumming. Look at all the textures, and again, it's really rich music that evokes so many pictures to me that I think it's just perfect for writing. This song is called Primavera, which I think it should be spring, primavera. That's what it sounds like, at least to me. Reshija is a bit more intense. Tell me that doesn't sound like it's intense. There's depth to it, and this is like on the speakers of my computer. Again, love the textures, love the layers. The 3 singers, it's like the fates singing. You come in and go out. And the harmonies that they have is pretty intense. And I've seen their performances live, and it's a type of band that I'm like, I'd love to see these people live because I know that it's going to be a very unique experience. And musically speaking, their album, Luna Nua, is a very unique experience because I think I've seen a couple of bands that fuse world music and old traditions with new stuff, but I've never heard one that takes inspiration from Slavic and Wallachian folk themes and have even I think they have some lyrics that are Macedonian. Who knows? Who knows? But it's magical music, and sometimes I think that the perfect music is gonna let you get to the perfect scene and get in the perfect mindset for that, and definitely intense, definitely picturesque, and definitely highly recommended. Amazing that they're indie right now. I don't know. I think it's a band that I really wish them all the success. I really would love to hear them do a soundtrack for a video game or for a movie. I hear their music and I think of those games and those movies that I watch that I'm just completely immersed in. And that's the type of music that they do. Music that definitely captures your attention, definitely sucks you into a world and transports you. So a little bit of one last track. The Juva is the next to last track. It's not as long as the last track. These two last tracks are just like, if you have to do like a meditation, I think it's like just, again, it's like letting go of a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions. Again, beautiful music, beautiful musicianship, different, and I think worth your time, especially if you're writing fantasy. So check them out, Vartra from Serbia. Connect with them. They're actually very accessible. They don't have a huge following and on social media because you're starting to get going, and because they're from Serbia. It's like a world fusion band. From Serbia. It's not that it's a hard sell. It's that they just haven't connected with the right audience. And if I can get at least 3 more people to listen to this, check it out, and share it with other people, I'm a super happy guy because this is great stuff. Check it out. So till next time, enjoy the music, peace, love, and my heroes. And it's always time to go indie now.
All right, definitely go check that out if you need some music to write to. Especially, I think it's a really good fantasy elements in it. So I think fantasy writers would really dig that. There are a couple like really good tracks for like a epic fantasy. But anyway, that being said, welcome to the roundtable discussion, and we've got a great group here, some newcomers and familiar face, and. We'll let everybody introduce themselves first, and then we'll get to talking about how Facebook is ruining our lives. And with that being said, why don't we start? I'll start with the veteran here, Mr. Joshua Pantalleresco. Tell everybody about yourself, sir.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joshua Pantalleresco. I write stuff. I podcast. I occasionally illustrate. I'm just a dabbler that just does stuff. And my show, Just Joshing, is on Twitch and YouTube. And I also write books, too. So yeah, I think that's everything for the moment.
Nice. Awesome. Welcome, sir. All right. Thomas, why don't you tell everybody about yourself?
Hey, how you doing? I'm Thomas Davis. I'm the author of the Versatile LAHR book series. I currently have 8 books released in the series, and the 9th final book is in the editing phase.
Nice. Welcome, sir. All right, Ron.
Hello. Happy Easter. I'm the author of the Cathaldi Chronicles. The 3rd book is almost done, maybe next week. I write fantasy and humor, sometimes both, at least in my opinion. I also love to grow food and cook food. I make my own crackers, so I'm kind of insane.
Well, welcome. It's nice to have you all.
Thank you.
That should be your author bio. I make crackers. I'm kind of crazy. Cool.
For a second, I thought he was going to say I like to grow pot.
I have no comment.
Yay, Facebook bashing. Yes, we'll see. Welcome. It's cool. What's cool sometimes is that I get things sent to me, and this happened to come across my way. It was an article. It was actually more of a blog by a guy who kind of broke down the history of authors in Facebook. It's really, really thorough, and we won't go into every single detail because it goes all the way back to 2005, and I just don't got that kind of time or inclination to do that. But there are some things that I found from this that I think are relevant to right now that we can discuss and talk about. And thank you to Jenny Burke for sending me the article, by the way. She's the one who did it. So thank you very much for that. And I wanted to start with you, Josh, because it's really cool that you are here on this particular topic, because it's something that was really stuck out to me like a sore thumb in this article or blog, was that he was talking about how he from the beginning has been encouraging authors to really get onto their own platform and multi-stream from different avenues and different platforms. And that's something that you're an expert at and you're very good at. And so I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on why you felt like that was the way to go, and what what you've experienced in doing something like that.
So I actually agreed with most of what he said about Facebook. So last year when I went as a freelancer, I released 2 books. It was great. I loved it. I learned it. And one of the things I didn't do so well was ads. And it's on me. It was just part of the growth and process of what I'm doing. Like this year my goal is to be very more ad centric. But I was looking at Facebook in particular, and I was like, there's just no way. Because even throughout my time, like I've been on Facebook since I think 2008, 2009. And what I've noticed is Facebook has always been, like, one thing he said, it's absolutely, I've agreed with him, it's always been a shifting sand environment. There's nothing there to make a platform. Like I look at all the fact that I'm on Twitch, I'm on YouTube, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter. And I have found that by scaling my voice accordingly, I have gotten more of a following from a bunch of different platforms. I don't think Facebook's useless, but I also think that it's not something I would build a business on. I've watched pages go up and down. I've watched even my live feeds. Like when I started doing my Twitch show, I would live feed on Facebook. My numbers on Facebook have dropped by and large ever since they made the shift away from videos again. So I completely like the idea. I would never tell an author or any creative for that matter, unless I had a giant reach to begin with, to touch Facebook, because it's helpful. It can definitely get you connections. But if you're looking at it from like a scaling to a business, I do not think getting started, it's worth the investment. There are other places I would go first. And honestly, that's kind of like in that whole thing when he's talking about with that, I completely agreed with him.
Mm-hmm. As do I. I think it's important to be versatile, but and Facebook seems to run into its own way a lot of times with things that they're doing. It's kind of one year we're going to try video, 1 year we're going to try groups, we're going to see if this works and that works, and they seem to be as testing as much as we are. And for you, Ron, you're about to launch another book. So what is your strategy as far as going through these social media platforms? Are you kind of fed up with Facebook a little bit, or are you kind of what is your design for when you're going to launch this next book of yours?
Well, as an old person, it would help me if you would refer to it as the Facebook.
Okay.
Because I get very confused. I didn't know if there were 2 Facebooks. But I love the Facebook. It's made for old people, I thought. To me, it's always been just a way to find people and then get them to my email list. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, to me, the whole point of being an indie is you have that control. And as a control freak, I like that. Yeah. And the only thing I can ultimately or totally control is my email list. And so Twitter, whatever avenue I'm reaching out to people on, I want them to get to the newsletter. And I try and pack my newsletter full of stuff to make it worthwhile. But yeah, I mean, I've been on Facebook a long time, and it has always changed all the time, and you couldn't count on it. But I think that's true with anything that other people own. I mean, they're not in it for me to make money. They're in it for them to make money. So, but as our overlords, I respect them and love them.
It's okay. They're not watching.
I assume they are, but.
How about for you, Mr. Davis? I mean, you both of you guys came from some groups that I frequent as well, and running into some people and mutual friends and things in that nature. And you guys came to us through that avenue. So, are you kind of like trying to adapt constantly? What was your approach to the Facebook idea and social media?
My main approach to Facebook is I just do the primo weekends, like when author pages put up their hey, promote your work. I normally jump on those. Yeah, I do most of my my marketing for my books outside of the internet. Like I'll do book conventions, or I'll set up at a local market and sell my book directly to fans and build my email list that way as I'm selling books directly. I've never had much luck with online marketing, so that's pretty much my strategies for using Facebook or any online marketing. I bought a few ads on Facebook when I first started back in 2018. And I really didn't see a response from it, so I kind of shied away from Facebook as a marketing tool.
So, with something that Facebook is applying, and this is also true of Twitter, and reason Facebook is applying this is twofold. There is they were having some trouble with Australia, and two, Twitter has decided that they're going to invoke a lot more indie. They're looking for indie news. They're looking for reporters. Basically, they're looking for people to, it kind of lead the charge, and in a way that social media started to do back, the cable TV days when only cable news was available, and then all of a sudden Twitter came about, and people were reporting news before the news outlets could get to it, and that was frustrating the hell out of the news outlets. And Facebook has kind of led that way as well. They're going to do a little bit more indie. They're gearing their groups and their pages to a more monetized platform for people to present news. And in some respects, as indie authors, as indie artists, we look at that and go, okay, well, how can we jump on that, right? And how can we take advantage of that if that's the direction they're going to be promoting? And then what has become very apparent in the news, in the independent news world, is that they're afraid that a lot of again, fake news or whatever you want to call it is going to make its way through the system a lot faster. And according to Facebook, that's not the case, but a lot of independent outlets do not believe that. And so, we've had a struggle just trying to get ourselves legitimized, right? And it was a big stigma 20 years ago. Not so much now, because we're presenting ourselves in a professional manner. And we've worked hard to make that happen. And so, are you guys looking at like these social media platforms and the way they're degenerating and digressing a bit, and taking steps back? Are you scaling back at all? Or are you kind of embracing whatever change they make and try and take advantage of it?
Bit of both.
Mhm.
I kind of look at, like, honestly, like for me, like for what I do for my podcast, I like Facebook for that. I meet people, I connect with people, hey, you want to come on my show? Great. But for me, if you're talking about like building my social media platform, I've seen a lot more growth on LinkedIn and Twitter than Facebook. In terms of that way, and maybe it's just how my approach is. But I've been like, when I started this year, I had nothing on LinkedIn, and I'm at almost 1,000 people now. It's not a huge list, but it's the fact that I've only been using LinkedIn as a freelance tool for like 4 or 5 months. There's a lot more room for growth there. And I look at a platform like Instagram. I'm looking at things like Clubhouse. Clubhouse is something I'm looking at for me in long run because I podcast and I do a lot of audio stuff anyway. So that's a place where I kind of like, for me, it makes a lot of sense to look into because again, it already kind of fits what I already do. But when I'm looking at again, in terms of a good point that was made earlier. What is the business of Facebook? What is the business of Twitter? Right? Mm-hmm. The business of Facebook is mining your personal data. That's what they do. Right? Good, bad, or indifferent. That's what they do. So that's always going to be where their stuff is going. Do I think there are going to be opportunities? Sure. But I think that, like everything else, it's short term. But I mean, if you have an idea of where you want to go on the pulse with that, go for it. I mean, go nuts. Hey, no, but show me how. If you know what you're doing, heck, yeah, I'll learn from you. But for me, I'm just looking at the fact that I'm looking at if I'm using social media, I'm using it as a again to funnel into my podcast, funnel into my channels. I'm trying to grow and make bigger. And that's it. Because I know that next year, Facebook will decide that, you know what, we're going to go back to videos again, or we're gonna go back to fan pages again, or we're going to go back to who the hell knows. So that's how I look at Facebook.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I'm definitely not shying away from social media, no matter how badly it degenerates. I mean, I will admit I've never looked to social media for the cream of the crop intellectually, and that's great for me. The worse Twitter or Facebook gets, the easier it is to trick people into buying my books. So,
yeah, I like your attitude, my friend. It's a good way of looking at it.
How about for you, Thomas?
I don't have anything to add right now. I'm just listening.
I mean, as you pointed out, Josh, there's certain ways to use it effectively, right? And it's kind of like if you figure that out, that's the best approach because then you don't have to adjust as much, right? Because you're using it in the manner that you've always intended to use it for, kind of idea. But at the same token, you know, if it's further and further down a timeline, or you're not getting seen, or you know, you need this certain hashtag at this certain time, kind of idea. All these things that matter with these algorithms and these ideas that, you know, the right people aren't seeing it, or new people aren't seeing it, you know?
So I think I should bring something up that I think people need to understand about algorithms and stuff like that. That makes some sense to me, because I kind of understand why certain algorithms go up, certain algorithms go down, because there's a push and pull between the system and how we're trying to manipulate it. So that's a constant gameship, and understanding that, you can learn, like, again, you can always look and see and try, and there's always opportunities in those avenues, and there always will be. Search engine optimization, or SEO for the cool kids, or something to that effect, is not a bad skill as an author, as a writer, to at least have a basic understanding of. Because I think with the way we've gone, the hashtags and the subject lines and the metadata is going to be a big part of how we engineer our pieces going forward. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just the evolution of the business. But when you're looking, but that's one thing. And it doesn't matter what your social platform is. That is always going to be a constant thing. That's different than, say, Facebook prioritizing. Like right now, what's annoying me about Facebook, like the one thing I've like personally, links. They're not like links go down on their platform right now, and I'm like, why? Like this is like one of those things you do. But again, for me, I'm like, well, I got LinkedIn, I got Twitter, I got other places where people are seeing my stuff, and it's like, okay, great. I'll worry about those places more, because I would rather build those up more, because the more I build myself up in other spots, and like I said, and as was mentioned also, mailing lists are huge. Like honestly, a lot of authors I know, I just interviewed Dave Butler for my podcast, and he's actually forsworn Twitter and Facebook because he thought of how toxic social media is, and is relying on his mailing list to build himself. And honestly, I think ultimately, I think where a lot of our, like all of us are going to have to be better on that game going forward, because I think honestly, that's probably going to be the best way we build ourselves, right? So I actually agree with that as well. So
have any of you guys tried Story Origin at all?
Not
Yes.
Yes, yeah, Story
I
Origin
love
works
Story.
pretty well.
Yeah,
I agree.
I've had a lot of luck on there. You connect with a lot of.
How do you feel about them going to a paid model?
Oh, they are. I haven't used it in a few weeks.
About time. About time.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
I mean,
as of April 7th, actually. But they're grandfathering it in. So.
He's put in so much work, and I think built a great tool.
It's an incredible platform, yes.
Yeah, and one of the things I love most about it is swapping with other authors. You know, where you aren't just building your own list; you're getting a chance to meet people and I don't know, live off of their success.
Do you have an audiobook, Ron?
I do. The first book of my series, Children of Cathaldi, has an audiobook, and my books are written in first person, and the person telling the story is just a dick. I mean, he's awful. He's not a good guy. These are not politically correct books, which is why I have to trick people into buying them. But when an audiobook company approached me and I said, just find the most sarcastic narrator you can. That's all I really want. And the guy they found was awesome. I actually think it's better to do the audiobook than read the book, because he captures it so well, and sometimes sarcasm or humor is a lot harder to pick up off the page than when you get to hear it. So, and then I also... Pardon?
Especially when it's dry. But anyway, I digress.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I also have a thing coming out tomorrow where there's this guy who does audiobooks of stories for free, just like it's a passion project for him. Mm-hmm. And he's doing my reader magnet from Story Origin.
Cool.
And cool. I'm very excited to hear his interpretation of it. So, but yes, I love audiobooks.
Yeah, the reason I asked about the audiobook is because Story Origin has really done a lot with that aspect of the business as well. Have you taken advantage of that opportunity?
No, not yet. Well, like everyone in the world, I'm pretty busy, so I have to pick what I'm going to do. And then with the amount of time my wife and I waste making everything from scratch, there's really not a lot of other time left. But our crackers are amazing.
I bet.
It must take a long time to make those crackers.
It's kind of a pain in the butt, like making everything from scratch.
You mentioned Story Origin, Thomas. What is it about that platform that has helped you out?
I tended to get a lot of responses on that platform, mainly by especially when you have a smaller mailing list, you can actually set up the mailing. You can set up the promotion yourself, and bigger authors, but they will lend their list to that promotion. So you do like a sci-fi book promotion, and you start getting authors to sign up for it, and your work is promoted along with the work of bigger authors. And a lot of times, like if someone has great responses in a previous promotion, you actually tag them as you actually star their promotion so they appear near the top. And you give rewards to people who are performing well within the promotion.
I have two thoughts on this to tie it into what we've been talking about a little bit too. But I wanted to, for the story origin aspect of it, the newsletter thing that Josh mentioned and Ron, you've mentioned as well, and Thomas, you all kind of touched on that a bit here, that's been a more effective tool for you, capturing emails and reaching people directly. Is it because you're reaching them directly that you feel like you're gaining more traction, or is it because that's the design of Facebook? Facebook really wants you to capture a group of people and become a group. I mean, that's what they want. They want you to kind of be a tribe and have like-minded folks, and and put them all together so they can advertise at you what you all like. That's their whole.
Yeah, they're capturing your information.
Avenue.
Again.
Go ahead, Josh.
So I think it's actually I feel like it's almost like we've gone full circle with it. It's like what I honestly feel, because newsletters are a lot of work. Like that. Like, I mean, all of us will acknowledge this. I mean, I do a whole bunch of shows, and sometimes when I'm honestly really behind on my newsletter right this minute, because it's like, well, I do 5 shows a week. I'm writing and illustrating my next book. I'm doing a lot of other things. Where am I going to find the time for it? But on the flip side, I mean, I'm looking at it. I think it's just a very pragmatic point of view, because one, yeah, you're in full control of that list. It's yours. Two, if you're looking at, again, I'm looking at some of the other people that are really, really successful in a variety of different places. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, they start and end by marketing their mailing list. They market to them. That's your market. That's where your paying customers are, right? By and large. It's not just there, but I mean, it is definitely it's the kind of like your alpha and your omega. So you kind of have to look at it now going forward, especially like when every one of these platforms has their own agenda. Facebook, we're talking about Facebook because Facebook's probably the most egregious of them. But I mean, Facebook, Twitter, they want to mine your data. They don't really care about helping you doing it. So that doesn't mean you can't use it, but you got to understand the nature of the beast of what you're playing with. Some platforms are a lot more forgiving. Like, I don't know of a single person who really hates Instagram, right? I mean, but again, that has a very different purpose than Facebook does. Mm-hmm. So I mean, you can use all these platforms to meet people, network with people, and interact with people. And that's great, but at the end of the day, I mean, how easily accessible can change from moment to moment. A mailing list doesn't. I mean, if someone doesn't want to listen to your stuff, they'll just unsubscribe, right? It's a click of a button. But that's it. Like, you don't have to worry about a policy. You don't have to worry about we're gonna focus on this today, right? So I mean, your enemy with a mailing list is a spam filter. That's your enemy. So
another thing with Facebook is like with a mailing list, they're going to get the letter, they're going to get the email. With Facebook is like, it's like give us $5 to make sure this person gets the letter. Mail the letter. You're like they want to put an expensive stamp on all your letters, even though you have all these addresses already.
Mm-hmm. But at the same token, I'll be the contentious voice here and the devil's advocate a little bit. You get to a certain level with your mailing list, you have to start paying for it, because they're not going to house 15,000 names unless they can get a little out of that. So your mailer lights, your all MailChimps, all of them do it. They all cap it at some point and say, okay, now you're big time, so now you got to pay us. And the other thing I'll say about the idea of mailing lists is that it's funny that we've gone full circle with Facebook, and so we've been talking about it even here. We've gone full circle, but the idea is that Facebook evolves and changes, and either we change with it or we go somewhere else and go there. Mailing lists had the same thing. Mailing lists, at the very beginning, that was the way. That was the only way to get an audience and get a readership. And then that went passe and went down the tube because people stopped reading them, stopped opening them, were unsubscribing at droves, and so people went away from it, and then it came back, and so all these things seem to have this similar, cycling that goes through it. And so it's kind of interesting that we will pay homage because the idea is, right, with mailing lists, we're reaching, as you guys have said, we reach directly to that customer. If Facebook did that, would you be more apt to do it on Facebook than you would with a mailing list?
It'd be a lot more tempting for me, but that's because I have giant social followings. I have 3,400 people on Twitter. I have 2,000 people on Facebook. I have 1,000 people on LinkedIn. It would save me a lot of recruiting work if I could do it on Facebook, right? Because I already have a captured audience, right? And sometimes I'm not as funny. I'm not as funny as the partner in crime over there that makes the crackers, but I do make the jokes here and there, right? I'm not right, so I can be entertaining. I think I do have a pretty good job at retaining an audience. But what the thing about, there's two things about mailing lists, right? It's work to get people to commit to it, even though it may not be very much. There's still there's a service there, and right, and that's why MailChimp charges, like, hey, you went through all this trouble, we're doing all your delivery for you. Well, yeah, we want you to pony up at this point because you have this many names. It kind of makes sense on one hand. I mean, especially if you've been using them to get to this point. Most of us have been using this stuff for years, right? That's fair, I think. But I think ultimately, like, if I could, I'd think about it on a social platform. But I think ultimately there has to be a mixture. Using social platforms to get people on a list is a good idea. But there's going to be times where some things work better than others too. And I think what, for all of us, each and every one of us, no matter what we choose to do, different things work for us for different reasons. And I think it's just the fact all of us hit different audiences that are interested in us. So I think what tends to happen with all of us on some level is sooner or later we kind of find that niche where we fit, and those are the places where we work. We should have our own stuff with mailing lists, but I mean, as far as social platforms, I do okay on where I'm at. I'm getting bigger. So for a guy like me, it's what I'm looking at is scale. And so that's what the social media platforms can provide you. And then honestly, if they geared towards that, a lot more authors would be interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the thing that people don't realize too is that this is a lot of work. I mean, to go to Facebook, to go to Twitter, to do YouTube, to do Instagram. Instagram's a whole different thing because you got to take pictures and then you got to use your phone to upload pictures, and then you got to do the hashtagging, which is different than the hashtagging on Twitter. And then if you get into TikTok, then that's a whole other beast. And you're doing editing videos, and you're doing this, and you're doing that, and you're recording stuff, and so the idea is, like, the newsletter you can do twice a month or once a week or once a month, whatever you think is going to work, and you put all your effort into that and put it out there, right? That's the appealing aspect of it, and also probably the reason why folks like myself who have other things going on don't do it, because that's a lot of work I have to put in, and I would have to put in, like, a dedicated amount of work to put out a newsletter monthly, kind of thing, right? So it's easy to capture the emails, but you have to hold on to them and you have to engage them, right? That's why social media was appealing right from the beginning, is because you had an instant engagement, and now, because there's so many people and there's so many things going on, it's harder to grab that attention, right? And so the newsletter does that right off the bat because you're directing it right at the person you want to direct it at, but you still have to work and you still have to hold that attention, right? So
we are a niche market. Like all of us, like, unless we become like a super spectacular hit, and I wish that for all of you gentlemen in your own and in all your mediums, right? You become a big hit, you appeal to everybody. But for the most part, one of the things I've learned in freelancing is we all appeal to certain niches. We all have things that naturally draw us, and we are in a niche business, right? I write about unicorns that fart rainbows. Ron writes about, sarcastically evil dicks. Thomas, you didn't talk about I don't know the nature of your thing, so I can't categorize.
Yeah, it's a space opera.
You write space operas, right? And Joe has to put up with all of us. Joe, we gotta give you alcohol. It's okay, but the thing about that, right, is we all appeal to certain niches. Yeah. And understanding what those niches are, I think, for all of us is very important because as Joe said, it's not just about it. The engagement. What we're competing for is that engagement. Now it's a lot more. It's a lot more wild. It's not. It's a lot more. There's a lot more noise in there. But what we can do is we can tailor ourselves to fit who we are and find our audiences that way. It's a very important part, I think, of the business end of writing. Well, okay, Thomas, with space opera. So do you know what you want to find? You want to find book clubs that read space opera. You want to find fans of authors like Paul Anderson because you would appeal to those kinds of people. So you would focus and you would attack your strategy. Like, okay, listen, I'm going to go hit these people to do this thing because this is what I'm awesome at. Hey guys, you like spaceships? You like big giant stories? This is the place, right? Maybe even go after the Shakespeare crowd because why not? Because Shakespeare is as opera as you can get in terms of like storytelling. Go, you think out loud. I mentioned Paul Anderson for a reason. He took Shakespearean plays and he made them not sci-fi novels. It was a great career for him, right? So, and Ron, like I said, you do humor. Humor, if you and because you do humor in the way you do humor, so maybe you go after people that like, say, the Flashman books, or maybe Kurt Vonnegut, or Aileen Martinez, or Terry Pratchett, right? Whatever style of humor you closely fit to, because that is where you'll get your most engagement. A guy like me that has a very big mouth, right, tends to find, because I want to interview people and talk to people and work with people, I tend to go I'll be inspiring. I encourage people to follow their dreams because guess what my show's about? I talk to successful people. I want them to follow their dreams and tell their story of how they did it. That's my show. Where you get right down to the nutshell. I know who I am. I know what I go for. Ergo, I'm getting that engagement because that's what I want. And that's the same. And every author has to kind of be honest with themselves. Okay, who are you? What kind of engagement do you really want? And then go get it. Whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Reddit, something we haven't talked about, right? Whether it's on these book clubs and right. Goodreads is another place we don't talk about. That's a really good engagement point, right? Hey, there's this club. Maybe you write a zombie penguin apocalypse. Hey, there's a club that likes zombie penguin apocalypse. That's my jam. Let's go get in there. And as silly as that,
there's a big following for zombie penguin apocalypse right now.
Yeah, right. But that's kind of like the point. Like, we all are niches, and no matter who we are, we need to understand what we are, and then try to seek that engagement going forward, no matter what the platform is.
Do you feel like, so that being said, then do you all feel like there's a cap on that? Do you feel like you are going to reach a plateau and a wall, or do you feel like you can break through? And is that the key, is to find more people to bring in than to, go after the people that are already out there? Or do you feel like you're okay if there's a cap, and if I'm only appealing to 10 people, you know, who like Penguin and Zombie Apocalypse. We all know that there's more. Don't at me. I'm just saying. I mean, you know, it's just putting, you know, putting an idea of you know, a marketing strategy behind it, right? And do you feel like, are you worried that there's a cap? Do you worry that you're going to hit a plateau, or are you looking at how can I get beyond that?
Well, I definitely feel there's a cap on people who will like my writing. I mean, you know, you have to like that sense of humor, or my sense of humor, and then also be interested in fantasy, you know, the fantasy genre. So I definitely feel there's a cap, but I don't just use social media to directly try to find readers. I'm also trying to network with other writers. And I mean, I just joined a Facebook group that is humorous fantasy writers. I mean, that's so helpful for me, you know. And then if we do swaps, and then I also used Facebook, the fourth book. So after my initial trilogy, the fourth book is going to be short stories that take place in the world of the Cathaldi Chronicles, but written by a bunch of people, a bunch of different people. And social media helped me find a bunch of authors to get involved in that project. So, I mean, part of it for me is just finding new ways to use the different social media platforms to help me accomplish my marketing goals.
Nice.
I don't think there's a cap. Like right now, I wrote a book. I wrote books because I don't have the budget to make TV shows and movies. But I would like those TV shows and movies to get made about my Penguin Zombie Apocalypse books. And that's the whole goal. Like you always run into that person that's like, wow, that description of your book sounds awesome. Too bad it's a book. I don't read books. So one day maybe I'll move on to comics. Then after that, try to get into TV, and then after that, try to get into movies. Try to get millions of people to know what Versatile Layer is and be fans of it. Try to get bigger than Star Wars and Star Trek. That's the goal.
I respect that. So first off, I should make a Penguin Zombie Apocalypse T-shirt because I apparently had caught on.
Right. I really like that.
Right.
If you don't write the book, I'm gonna write it.
But anyways, number one, number two. So we could do a whole episode with Thomas talking about the whole point of reselling your intellectual property in a variety of different mediums. That's a whole nother episode of GoIndieNow, and maybe we could do that. But I will say, okay, I say the answer is both yes and no. Now I'll talk about where I think the cap is yes, and it's this. Again, maybe only certain people will like your books initially, right? I wrote about unicorns that fart rainbows in like a Matrix meets Indiana Jones kind of thing. I'm writing about parallel universe dragon slaying, and I did a homage to Fahrenheit 451. So I'm a science fiction adventure-ish guy. That's who I am. I'm not going to appeal to everybody, at least initially. And I'm okay with that. If I can only hit, I just figured this out. Let's say I can only get 10,000 readers. That might be a very low. I'm a much more ambitious bastard than that. But let's say I get 10,000 readers. That's still my bills and groceries and all that. It's like I'm making a living doing this, right. which is I think the goal we all want with this. We're not let's be honest. Yeah, I mean, I love doing what I'm doing, but I want it to be the only thing I'm doing. I mean, I think we are all lying to ourselves just a little bit if we're publishing in the market and we're hoping not to make a living doing it. But so, do I think there's a cap? Kind of, yes. Especially initially, I do think there's a yes to that. But but I remember, you know, sometimes something's so good, something is just catches at the right place at the right time, and the next thing you know, you are the next Harry Potter, you are the next Twilight, you are the next 50 Shades of Grey. God help us all. But a hit's a hit no matter where it comes from. I do think it's possible for anything to become a hit. So, but I think starting out, it's like, you know what? If I only hit a certain group of readers, Walking Dead was a zombie comic, but it was such a good zombie comic that it appealed to everybody, right? It caught at the right time. But it was, but I mean, Robert Kirkman was right to a niche, like a niche he had a story that he wanted to tell in it, right? It just, circumstances just happen. I think so. So I'm not really copying. I think yes, initially it's like have a goal of a specific audience you want to hit, but you never know where that leads you. That might lead you to that becoming the next big thing, and it'd be like, holy shit, how did I do that? And right, I mean, it can be happening just like that.
Yeah, and it happens like that. I mean, it's like that instant. It's a Thanos snap. You know, it's like woo, and all of a sudden,
Josh, if you've written a parallel universe Dragon Slaying book, you might want to slap an anime cover on it because Isekai is huge right now, and that's basically
actually. So Dave, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm marketing this bad boy. I'm going to give you my master plan. So this is Parker Meets Quantum Leap. All my covers and illustrations are going to be done from 5 very badass women I know. Anvu's the first one, Kenzie Carr's the second, Florence Chance the third. The other 2 I'm not going to say. I've asked them very nicely. Some of them are actually pretty big. I just figure badass woman main character, badass women that are actually drawing the character. That's how I'm going to actually be marketing this. So
very cool.
Well, one thing that I know is that there is a niche market for everything, and CL Cannon each week helps us figure that out on the Indie Connection. And today, if you're a fan, and I don't know if anybody in our chat is a fan of Nicholas Sparks, but maybe out there, hey, maybe something happened. But there is a fault in our stars, and that's because you're not out there buying the indie books that go along with it. And here's CL Cannon to tell you all about it.
Hey guys, CL Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another Indie Connection. Today I'm going to be telling you about some indie books that you might enjoy if you're a fan of A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. The first book I have for you is called The Hearts We Break by Kylie Key. He's rich. He's arrogant. He's broody. He's my next-door neighbor. Cole Parsons has an attitude problem. He has no respect for a quiet neighborhood. Holds noisy pool parties. Drives recklessly. But all is not what it seems. He's hiding behind that bad boy image. When he sees the pain he's caused, he tries to make amends. I want to help him. I don't count on falling for him. Nothing good can ever come of it, and the hearts we break might just be our own. The second book I have for you is called The Moment We Fell by Kelly Warner. Nothing good happens when people keep secrets. Paige Bryant's dream of becoming a professional ballet dancer died along with her mother. Drowning in grief and plagued by guilt, Paige is blindsided by a provision in her mother's will that sends her to live with the father she never knew. Forced to start over in a new town and at a new school where she's now the principal's daughter, Paige is convinced that her life can't possibly get more complicated, until fate throws her into the path of the only boy her guardian tells her is off limits. Despite 2 years on the straight and narrow, Cade Matthews can't escape his time as a juvenile delinquent. With his dad behind bars, Cade's feelings of anger and betrayal are as relentless as the rumors he's trying to outrun. The only person not listening to the gossip is the new girl with her own set of troubles, including a father who will never give Cade a fair shake. As Paige tries to adjust to her new life and an uncertain future, a set of unopened journals reveals a dark family secret. When tensions rise to a boiling point, can Paige and Cade make peace with the past before it destroys them? The third book I have for you is called To the Stars by Leon M. A. Edwards. A career-driven lecturer, a successful lawyer. Will the stars align for them to be together? Sarah Barnes is interstellar in teaching astrophysics at Oxford University. Ben Chandler is a meteor success in being a London-based lawyer. Sarah has spent her whole life focusing on planetary stars, wondering what is out there, leaving romance behind on Earth. When she's ready to find love, she wins the lottery and receives sad news that sends her trajectory in a spin. Her dream is to use the money to pay for a flight around the Earth in space. Can two people shoot for the stars at finding love and reaching space? And the last book I have for you is called Planck's Law by Leslie Choice. Trevor has known since he was 10 years old that he has Huntington's disease, but at 16, he is informed that he has 1 year to live. One day, while he's trying to figure stuff out, an old man named Plank finds him standing at a cliff by the ocean. It's the beginning of an odd but intriguing relationship. Both Trevor and Plank decide to live by Plank's law, which is just live. This means Trevor has to act on the things on his bucket list, like hanging out with real penguins, star in a science fiction movie, and actually talk to Sarah, the girl at the hospital who smiles at him. With the aid of Plank and Sarah, Trevor revises his bucket list to include more important things and takes charge of his illness and his life. Okay, that's all for me this week. I'll see you next week on the Indie Connection. Bye.
Well, speaking of niches, I apologize. I made a faux pas and said a Fault of Our Stars, but it was A Walk to Remember. But come on, Nicholas Sparks writes the same book over and over again, right? I mean, so it's very similar. So don't at me with that. All right, I get it. I made a mistake, but hey, look, the one thing I do know is those indie books are probably very creative and very interesting. And if you are a fan of Nicholas Sparks, you'll probably enjoy them quite a bit. I'm enjoying our chat. Bring everybody back here to kind of look at this. We've got a pretty good chat going here today, guys. Virginie says Vartra is a good chill and create music. Yes, I agree. I think if you're a fantasy writer, I think you guys would really gravitate toward that.
I like to listen to a lot of lo-fi hip hop while I'm writing.
Nice.
Sometimes a little bit of punk.
Does the lo-fi hip hop have usually no lyrics though? Is it kind of just the beats?
Yes, just instrumental. Like you can go to YouTube, type in study beats or
there's some really good ones.
Yeah, a lot of different ones. I can't think of them right now, but yeah, there's a lot of really good lo-fi.
Is it created beats or is it more samplings?
It's a little bit of both, creative beats and sampling, and you'll find like 5-10 hour mixes like online. Ryan Celsius does a lot of really great stuff too.
Nice. And Virginie also says I'm live on Facebook. They're watching. Okay, we'll see. Here you go, Ron. Deborah says LOL, the Facebook. When she says that, it drives her husband nuts, and he corrects me.
that makes sense. To be woke, lately I've been thinking about calling it they Facebook.
Let's NFL this bad boy. The Facebook, as in the Bears. The
Facebook. Yeah, Jesus. Nice. Sarah waves at everybody. Hello, Sarah. Nice to see you.
What's up?
I'm sorry. Did you say? Oh,
I was waving back at Sarah. Yes. What's up?
Nice. Deborah says toxic. Yes, I left Twitter. I polled my readers, and most of them weren't going there anymore. So there you go. AF Stewart says newsletter templates help her cut down on time, like we were talking about. And Deborah says some readers are burned out on newsletters and have been leaving. You've got to make the newsletters compelling enough for them to stay and come back. There you go, Josh. You've inspired as you aim to do.
A lot of people are going to steal that penguin zombie idea.
Yeah.
Can we talk about content of newsletters for a minute? Because like I do a serialized short story that's nowhere else. And I only give like 500 words an issue of the newsletter. But then I do interviews. I mean, I have like 6 segments plus, and one of those is reviewing other indie books. What do you guys who, at least you, Thomas, what do you do in your newsletter to try and make it stand out from the ones that are just ads? I mean, you must see those where it's just buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, no building of a relationship at all.
I'm still working on that. I'm pretty new. I published my first book back in 2018. So right now I'll just have I'll put a blog post in there, maybe about like a new movie or a sci-fi topic, or even like I wrote a quick fanfic. I'll put that in there. Yeah, just little things that you hope that the audience responds to.
Nice. I like that.
I'm curious about engagement too, in terms of, do you guys offer like polls and questions in your newsletter to kind of get the engagement up so that you know that people are engaging with your newsletter and things like that? Because I've heard that's very effective. I've also heard that involving other authors, helping you each agree to pimp each other's stuff in the newsletter. Have you guys tried that as well?
Yeah, I don't do the polls, and I mean, I try and get them to offer their opinion of things they like. Please let me know if you like this.
Yeah.
But I don't like polls so much. I do love getting other authors, and we interview each other or review each other's work, although that can be problematic if you read their stuff and it's a struggle to find something nice to say. And it's not in my nature to give false compliments. Ask any of my wives. I mean, they all did not get them. So yeah. Anyway, that's the pratfall of it. Because I try not to lie. So to be like, this guy really describes trees well. I mean, that's a tough one.
Yeah. I got some great advice once on that aspect of it, right? And the advice was, look at it as if it was you getting the review, right? And you getting it, because what you put out there is what's going to come back to you, right? So the idea is, if you're complimentary, even if it's the silliest of things, like, hey, you really described those leaves on that tree very well. I mean, I've never read a book that had better leaves in it. Those kind of little things matter. They come back to you, and you never know what's going to effectively make somebody happy, right? Maybe that's what they're writing for. Maybe they were writing 65 pages of leaves so that you would mention the damn leaves, right? So,
well, I never say anything bad about any indie author, because it is hard enough. If I read a book thinking I'm going to review it and I don't like it and there's nothing to say, then I just don't review it, because I don't want to be responsible for either unmotivating an author. I mean, you know how it is. Somebody says something great about something you've written, and it's like, I can go for a week off of that. Somebody says something awful, and I lose a lot of motivation that day to work. So I don't want to do that to people.
Yeah, I would never give another indie author under a 4-star review. If my review is under 4 stars, then I won't leave a review on the book.
Agree.
If it's indie, if it's like a mainstream book, fire away. But indies, it's hard enough, this life.
Exactly.
So I guess I'm a bigger asshole than all of you guys, because
well, you have a 3 in your title.
Yeah, exactly. Fair enough. But no, so this is how I approach a review, because I do reviews for firstcomicsnews.com. I review indie and mainstream news.
And everybody go check out Josh's review a couple weeks ago that he did for me here on a comic. So
absolutely. I try to be like, I think the important thing when you do a review, I'm okay with a 1-star review on my book. I'm okay with a 5-star review of my book. I'm not okay with getting no reviews on my books. I would rather have a bad review than no review, oddly enough, because I want to make an impact. Like the goal is, I don't necessarily have to be liked. I would love to be liked, right? I mean, we all want that. But the truth of the matter is, we're going for that connection. Hey, those leaves were amazing. Fuck those leaves, right?
Why are you writing only about leaves?
yeah. But it doesn't. But the thing about that is, that's a reaction either way. The author's doing their job. We are invested in creating no matter if it's space opera or penguin zombie apocalypse. And yes, I am going to make a t-shirt on this now, because dang it, this was too good to just say, right? It doesn't matter what the trappings are. The goal is to connect with your readers, and you do that by writing the best book you can. So if I get a terrible review, and my reader is being very critical but reasonable about why, not like, I think the worst thing I ever heard about my novel, The Cloud Diver, when it was actually doing like a beta read. Why do you have the number 13, that little number 13 in the elevators, right? Did nothing for me. It didn't do a damn thing one way or the other for the actual story. Just that bothered them. I don't care about that. But what I care about is like, you know what? Your characters could be deeper. You could have done a little bit more time here, and here. And if they have a point, I want to listen, because I'm more importantly than telling a compelling story, I want to get better.
Yeah.
Right. And
I find that 3-star reviews, you'll get that kind of level-headedness. A 1-star review is like venting. That's like somebody that's like, oh my God, I hate your book and I wanna hurt you.
My favorite 1-star review I got was a guy, and his first line was, "I didn't read the book."
Oh Jesus!
But
I've
when
seen those.
Amazon published the book, they screwed up the page length, so it looked like it was much shorter than it really was, and they fixed it when I let them know. But this guy was mad because another author had given me a blurb that compared me to a fantasy author who wrote very big books, and this guy liked that guy, so he said, "You get a 1-star review because your book is too short to be compared to that guy."
Oh, Jesus.
And that was the best. Didn't read it, didn't know anything.
I just did a podcast yesterday with my friends at the Plotaholics about The Godfather. And one of the things that Shane did in the podcast, which we couldn't believe, is read the 1-star reviews that was left on The Godfather. And one of them was literally, this movie is not about God or a father. So this is a misleading. That was the 1-star review. I mean, literally, that's the kind of things you'll get on there. But I want to mention one thing about something that Josh said, and something that's very famously out there. I think everybody knows who Howard Stern is, right? So there was this idea that Howard Stern, who doesn't appeal to everybody and really appeals to a niche audience, but he was able to reach out and gain a bigger audience because the people who hated him listened to his show just as much as the people who liked him, and they all had the same reason why. They wanted to know what he was going to say next, right?
I want to emphasize your point even further. People that hated his show listened to him more than the people that loved the show. It was they did the demographics. So I'm going to use the T word. I'm not going to get into the political, but the thing is, Trump did the same strategy. People that hated him more than the people that loved him, right? It's human nature, right? And so, I mean, the one thing that, right, I want emotional impact. I want the psychopath that can't tell the difference between God and Father reviewing my work, because yeah, it's the dumbest review ever, but you know what?
It's a review.
It adds to my visibility. I'm not gonna be on. Again, critically speaking, like when I approach a review, I'm very fair. Like you guys said, it's a hard work putting a book out there. I'm never going to crap on somebody that put the effort out to put a book out. You have to give everybody nothing but respect for doing that, and we all understand how hard that actually is. That all said, right? I take Ron saying, I'm going to be honest enough to tell you where I think you can be better, right? But I won't say it in a way, hopefully, that discourages you from stopping to write. That's the goal. Like when I do a review, if I screw that up, then I've done something wrong, right? But I mean, but that's how I kind of approach reviews. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
that is fair. Although I still do the advice privately, and I that's it. Like I can't wait for people to read my next book, because I know it's a huge improvement over my last book, and I'm going to be very curious what people think about it. I'm also drawing it too. It scares me to death, but that's okay.
But my point about Howard Stern is that he had people listening to him, right? And so, and the way that they did that is they developed the demographics, and he won some people over, he lost some people, all of that thing. That's part of the nature of the beast when you're creating. But the idea is for you not to leave a review is worse than leaving a 1-star review, because the engagement is how people get promoted, and that's part of the idea of the algorithm, is that people are engaging with you, whether they're being awful or being good. The engagement is what matters. And yeah, you don't want to see all that toxicity. You don't want to have all that, but it is helping you get seen more. And if you can develop that thick skin where you don't need to worry about what the fuck people say about you or care about it, then you can probably, benefit from that idea.
Okay, fellas, you changed my mind. I got a bunch of 1-star reviews to write tonight.
Actually, can I give the best book example of this? The best book example? 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, that's perfect. Good example.
Everybody mocks the quality of the writing of that, but you know what? She's laughing. You know why? Yeah. She's living nice. You know what? I wouldn't care what anyone thought about my writing if I'm suddenly living in a mansion because you thought my writing was that shitty. I'll take it, right?
She's a famous quote where she says, "Go ahead and leave a 1-star review and tell me how bad I'm a writer. I'm crying. I'm pulling out a Kleenex from my Versace purse, you bastard." So who cares?
That's right. That's the ultimate point. Yeah. We do. I honestly think the biggest lack of service a writer does for themselves and for their friends is not engage. We actually have we wrote the cool full circle of social media. We have the ability to engage with each other. Now, obviously, we don't have time for everybody. But again, if you look at my Facebook or if you look at my Twitter, I retweet and share a lot of stuff. Why? I want those people to get more engagement. And the best way to do that is to be active and encouraging those people to be engaged. Right? That is the ultimate best form way we can help each other out on these social media platforms. Hey, this should be visible. This should be a lot more visible than it is. Let's hit a reshare. Not just share it. Hit a like button. Right? We get into the habit of, oh, this is kind of terrible. I don't think I should. Or it's all right. It's all right. We're too passive.
Yeah,
with each other, and I honestly think we should actually do more with each other. It's just my thought.
I agree, and I wanted to get to these two last comments here too. It says I always believed, this is the wonderful Mark Shaw, everybody, and he says I always believe that coming to promoting, you should always think outside the box and do what nobody else is doing. And this is an example he gives where he
that's funny
sites because he was not just looking for love, but he was undercover promoting his book. And Deborah says about Miss Stephanie Myers, she built a fan base before the book was picked up by her publisher. When the publisher picked up 50 Shades, it already had buyers in place. So, fair point, but she's she'll take all the criticism. I that's one thing about her that I've always applauded. Look, if you're out for a money grab, that's one thing or whatever you want, but if you can sit there and take it, hey, more power to you. It's your life. Who am I to say whether or not you care or not? So it's up to you. Respect is whatever you make of it, right? So that being said, I respect everybody here and thank everybody here for joining us. I want to go around the horn once more and to tell everybody where they can get your wonderful books and leave a 1-star review. How about we'll start with you, Thomas?
Okay. My latest book, Versatile LAHR, The Bloodless Revolution, is available on Amazon. It just came out recently. It's an awesome book full of love, action, and revolution, and solutions to the world's problems, I think. And you can get that on Amazon and in paper and ebook formats. You can also find it on my website, versatile-layer.com/books.
Nice, awesome. Ron, how about for you, sir?
My stuff's on Amazon and Audible. I think they're just a tiny bit better than Thomas's.
Now I don't have any some 1-star reviews now.
I felt like that was already coming just from what happened today. There are no solutions for anything in my book, but but I think they're funny.
More
I mean, I
problems.
laugh when I read them. Yeah, it's more. I mean, they're. Yeah, if you like politically correct stuff, don't read my books unless you are doing it just to leave the 1-star review. But I do have a website, Cathaldi.com, and Facebook.com/Cathaldi. Just look for Cathaldi, I guess, and you'll find it.
Cool. Good covers too. He's got some good covers. I was on his website this morning. It's pretty good.
Oh, thanks.
All right, Josh.
So my name's Josh. I dabble. You can watch my show Just Joshing on Twitch Monday through Friday. Usually Monday through Thursday, I'm interviewing people. Friday, I usually do some kind of drink and draw where I draw with usually someone really cool. This week is streamer week, so I'm actually interviewing a whole bunch of streamers. And on Saturday instead of Friday, I'm playing Minecraft for the first time ever with my guest, Ms. Shigatsu. It's going to be fun. Beyond, though, you can find my show pretty much on any platform anywhere. Audio you can find. My YouTube channel is Joshua Pantalleresco. My books you can find on Amazon. My last release was Aleph Zero. My next release is called Lights Out. It'll be coming out soon.
Nice. Awesome. And I'm Joe Compton. And I do have one book out. I had two, but as you all know, I took that down. So we're revamping the very first book that I wrote through my publishing, through my publisher, which is Three Furious Press. I'm very happy to be on board with them. And then I have the third book coming out later next year, or earlier next year, I should say. And you're at GoIndieNow. So if you don't know where you are, and you just stumbled in here, I got one thing to say to you: smash that like button, smash it right now, and subscribe and share and do all those wonderful things that you do, because you know why? It's always time to go indie now. And with that, we say, have a great week, have a happy Easter, eat some chocolate bunnies, and enjoy your day and your week and your life. And we'll see you on the other side, everybody.